There's a soil building technique that's been transforming gardens across Korea for generations, and when fertilizer companies figured out what it does, they probably wished it stayed a secret. The best part, you can start using it this weekend with materials you already have in your kitchen. Why your soil is starving. Here's something that might surprise you. Every time you dump synthetic fertilizer on your garden, you're feeding your plants while simultaneously killing the microscopic workforce that makes healthy soil possible. Think of it like this: you're force-feeding vegetables to someone while their stomach lining disintegrates. Sure, some nutrition gets through, but you're creating long-term dependence on those expensive bags from the garden center. Your soil is supposed to be alive. Genuinely, teeming with life alive. Billions of bacteria, fungi, and beneficial organisms should be working 24/7 to break down organic matter, unlock nutrients, and create that perfect crumbly texture you see in nature. But conventional fertilizers don't just feed plants, they sterilize soil. They eliminate the very microorganisms that would make your garden self-sufficient. The Korean answer. Korean natural farming figured this out decades ago through the work of Master Cho Han-kyu. His indigenous microorganisms method, or IMO, operates on a principle so elegant it sounds almost too simple. The microbes thriving in your local environment are already perfectly adapted to help plants flourish in that exact same environment. Instead of buying generic solutions manufactured thousands of miles away, you're recruiting your own neighborhood's microscopic dream team. These aren't just any microorganisms, they're locally adapted specialists that know your climate, your soil type, and your growing conditions better than any laboratory formula ever could. What these microbes actually do. Let's break down what happens when you introduce indigenous microorganisms to your garden beds. First, they attack organic matter like a demolition crew, breaking down dead leaves, stems, and roots into nutrients your plants can absorb immediately. Second, they pull nitrogen straight out of the air and convert it into a form plant roots can use, free fertilizer, constantly replenishing itself. Third, they unlock phosphorus and other minerals that are technically in your soil but trapped in forms plants can't access. It's like discovering you've been sitting on a treasure chest you couldn't open. Fourth, these microbes produce natural growth compounds that make plants more vigorous, more disease-resistant, and frankly, more productive than you'd think possible. Gardens using IMO regularly see yields that double or even triple what they were producing before. Tomatoes that used to give you a modest harvest suddenly become prolific. Peppers that faded by mid-season stay dark green and loaded with fruit until frost. Cucumbers that normally succumb to powdery mildew in late summer keep producing clean, healthy fruit. And here's the kicker, this isn't a one-season miracle. You're building soil health that compounds year after year. Soil that was once compacted clay becomes loose and friable. Areas where plants struggled to grow become the most productive zones in your garden. You're not just fixing problems, you're creating a living ecosystem that solves problems before they start. What you'll need. The beauty of this technique is how ridiculously simple the materials are. You need cooked white rice, plain, no seasoning, just rice you'd cook for dinner. You need a wooden box or any container that allows air circulation. Paper or cloth for covering the top. Brown sugar or molasses. And access to a forest, woodlot, or any undisturbed natural area with healthy vegetation. That's it. No expensive equipment, no special ordering, no waiting for shipping. Everything you need is probably within a mile of your house right now. The collection process. Cook a batch of white rice, nothing fancy, just regular white rice. Fill your container about halfway with this rice while it's still fresh and fluffy. Don't compress it. Air needs to circulate through the rice for this to work properly. Cover the top with paper or cloth, something breathable that keeps debris out while allowing airflow. Secure it with a rubber band or string. Now take your container to the forest. Look for areas with thick leaf litter, places where the soil looks dark and rich. Under deciduous trees is ideal, especially spots where decades of leaves have decomposed into that gorgeous black humus. You're looking for the places where nature is clearly winning: lush undergrowth, healthy trees, soil that smells earthy and alive. Place your rice container directly on the ground. Nestle it into the leaf litter if you can. You're essentially setting out an invitation dinner for every beneficial microbe in the area, and that rice is the most attractive buffet they've seen all week. Walk away. Leave it there for 5 to 7 days. Don't peek. Don't check on it daily. Just let the forest do what forests do best: colonize everything with beneficial life. What you'll find. When you return a week later, your rice will look dramatically different. We're talking fuzzy, colorful, maybe a little alarming if you weren't expecting it. You'll see white fuzz, yellow patches, possibly orange or light green growth covering the rice. This isn't contamination. This is exactly what you want. This rainbow of fungi and bacteria represents the indigenous microorganisms that make forest soil so incredibly fertile. These organisms have moved into your rice, treating it like a 5-star resort. They've multiplied exponentially, creating colonies of beneficial microbes that are ready to do the same work in your garden that they've been doing in that forest for millennia. Preserving your culture. Once you've collected your colonized rice, you need to preserve these microorganisms for long-term use. Take the fuzzy rice and mix it with an equal weight of brown sugar or molasses in a jar. The sugar does 2 jobs. It acts as a preservative, and it provides food for the microbes to keep them active during storage. Stir everything together thoroughly. You want the sugar completely integrated with the rice. Pack this mixture loosely into a jar. Don't compress it, and cover the top with breathable cloth secured with a rubber band. Store this in a cool, dark location. Over the next few days, something remarkable happens. The mixture liquefies as the sugar draws moisture out of the rice and the microorganisms continue their work. What you end up with is a concentrated culture of indigenous microorganisms that can be stored for months without refrigeration. This concentrated form is called IMO2 in Korean natural farming terminology. How to use it. When you're ready to activate your garden, dilute this concentrate with water. A good starting ratio is about 1 teaspoon of your IMO concentrate per gallon of water. This creates a solution packed with billions of beneficial microorganisms ready to colonize your soil. You can apply this mixture several ways. Pour it directly onto your soil around plants. The microbes will immediately begin establishing themselves in the root zone. Use it as a foliar spray, misting it onto leaves where beneficial organisms will protect against disease. Add it to your compost pile to supercharge decomposition, turning kitchen scraps into finished compost in half the usual time. Apply this weekly during the growing season for maximum impact. Early morning or evening works best, when temperatures are moderate and the sun won't immediately kill the microbes you're introducing. Collecting from different locations. Here's a pro strategy: don't limit yourself to one collection site. Make batches throughout the season from different locations. Collect one batch from a forest, another from near thriving fruit trees if you have access to an established orchard, another from a healthy meadow or prairie area. Each location harbors unique microbial communities adapted to specific conditions. Forest microbes excel at breaking down woody material. Meadow microbes are nitrogen-fixing specialists. Microbes from near-established fruit trees have adapted to support long-lived perennial plants. By mixing and matching these different cultures, you're giving your garden access to the broadest possible range of beneficial organisms. Real results. Gardens using this method experience transformations that sound exaggerated until you see them yourself. Pepper plants that typically show yellowing leaves by mid-season stay vibrant and productive until frost kills them. Cucumber vines that normally succumb to disease remain healthy and productive far longer than usual. Tomato beds that struggled with soil-borne pathogens suddenly become the most reliable producers in the garden. Disease pressure drops noticeably. When your soil is populated with beneficial microorganisms, pathogenic organisms have to compete for resources and space. The good microbes essentially crowd out the bad ones, creating a protective barrier around plant roots. Nutrient deficiencies disappear. When your soil is alive with organisms constantly cycling nutrients, plants have access to everything they need, when they need it. That constant need to add supplemental fertilizers, the calcium spray for blossom end rot, the liquid kelp for trace minerals, the fish emulsion for nitrogen, all of that becomes unnecessary. The economic reality. Let's talk money. A season's worth of quality fertilizer for an average home garden runs anywhere from $50 to several $100 depending on what you're growing and how intensively. Organic options cost even more. Korean IMO costs essentially nothing beyond the rice and sugar you use to make it, maybe $5 per batch, and one batch produces enough concentrate for an entire season. But the real savings compound over time. As your soil health improves year after year, your input costs drop to nearly zero while your yields increase. You're not just saving money on fertilizer, you're building an asset that becomes more valuable with each growing season. Starting your journey. You can begin this process right now, regardless of season. Even in late fall or winter, indigenous microorganisms exist in forest soil, they're just dormant. Spring and fall are optimal because microbial activity peaks during these moderate temperature periods, but summer and winter collections work too. Start with a single batch. Try it on one bed or even a few container plants. Watch what happens over the next month. Pay attention to leaf color, growth rate, and overall plant vigor. Compare treated plants to untreated controls if you want to see the difference clearly. Once you see the results, you'll never go back to conventional fertilizers. Why would you, when nature provides a superior solution for free? Wrapping it all up. Korean natural farming tapped into something the industrial agriculture system has spent decades trying to make you forget. Fertility doesn't come from a bag. It comes from living soil, from billions of microscopic workers doing what they've done since plants first colonized land. We don't need to manufacture soil health when forests have been perfecting it for millions of years. We just need to stop fighting against these natural systems and start learning from them. This technique costs almost nothing, works better than expensive alternatives, and improves with every passing season. That combination doesn't just transform gardens, it changes how you think about growing food entirely. That's all for now. Subscribe to see more.